Hello, Flyers fans. Want to know? Welcome back to episode 11 of the Flyered Up podcast. And yeah, this week sucked. This week sucked a lot. Oh my god! It's just the past two games were utter and complete garbage. What?
Just remember the number 12 for me as we continue to go through this podcast. Just remember the number 12.
The number
I'll get
12?
to it into a little bit. Just remember it.
Okay, well, remember the number 12 going on there. I'm not sure what's going on here, but yeah, let's pull through. So, to recap the beginning of this week for the Philadelphia Flyers in this total utter garbage, on Sunday night, they lost 5-3 to the New York Islanders, where, once again, defensive mishaps continued to happen, and Carter Hart struggled in net. Did not look good once again. And then last night against the Pittsburgh Penguins, their cross-state rivals, came off to a very, very slow start. Pittsburgh scores 4 goals in the first period, and they end up winning the game by a score of 7-1. How do you not wake up against your rival? How do you not come to play? Just how do you come up with that piss-poor effort? That is my problem. These past 2 games, our effort has not been there. Our defense looks lost and are leaving our goaltenders out to dry. Brian Elliott last night was left out to dry. And I know there's arguments saying that why was Elliott still in the game after the first period? I'm stuck in the middle because that first period was not Elliott's fault whatsoever. It was the team in front of him leaving him to dry.
Oh,
And
definitely.
the players in front of him will say that. We left him out there to dry. They have completely said that in post-game. But there's another side of the argument. Why don't you bring Carter Hart in at the start of the second period to maybe spark the team? But in the beginning of the second period, even though Hart wasn't in the game, it was still Elliott. The team played good through majority of the second period. It was once the Penguins scored the 5th and 6th goal, it fell off again.
Right.
And then, yeah, Carter Hart played good in the third period, but even though he did allow a goal with like 6 seconds left, but that was more Sanheim's fault than anything.
And that was a beautiful play shot as well.
Yeah, but it's just the past 2 games. What is going on with our defense? These guys look lost.
I don't know. I mean, it's like half of them are playing good and half are playing bad. And the half that are playing good are Niskanen, Braun, and Provorov. And the other half that are playing bad are Gostisbehere, Hag, and Sanheim. And Gostisbehere has been the worst defenseman all year. Niskanen has been the best defenseman so far. And and Braun, I'd say he's played very well. Provorov, he's played pretty well. He hasn't done anything that's been, oh my God, Provorov, why would you know what I mean? Sanheim last night was atrocious.
To me, Provorov is on and on, but I feel like he has more good games than bad. Sanheim, right. Yes. Sanheim, I have no idea what's wrong with him. He looks
great season last year. A great offensive season, really good on his own end. I'd say he's probably second best defenseman last year. I personally think Gudas was the best defenseman last year. But I haven't seen anything that Sanheim's done. He was shaky last night. He fell over on, I think that was the 7th goal, wasn't it? Where he fell right at the line or something along them lines.
No, it wasn't. The 7th goal, he made a turnover behind the net.
I feel like it was.
It was either one of the goals I think it was one of the goals in the first period where he fell over.
It was Crosby goal.
Yeah, it was the Crosby goal. Yes, mm-hmm. Where he fell over, completely right. Just lost an edge somehow.
Right, and I just like Hag. He's been Hag doesn't necessarily do anything good. He doesn't really do anything that's atrociously bad either. But it's just like I'm just tired of seeing Hag in the lineup at this point.
I agree.
I honestly, I would rather see Sam Morin or Phil Myers in that spot. But the problem is with bringing up Sam Morin is cap space. Or sorry,
you mean Phil Myers?
Yeah, my bad. But even still, like Gostisbehere, as I said, he's been bad. I think he's just overthinking everything. I think they should definitely take him off the first unit because it's not helping them. He waits way too long to shoot. He'll continue to pass it. Whenever he does shoot, it's either blocked or it goes completely wide, and no one retrieves it because by the time they're just tired from passing it around the whole time. The power play has been good, but I would honestly, I'd rather have them start with the second unit out there, even though the coaching staff doesn't really call them units. But even still, I would rather have them start with Provorov and Niskanen, Couturier, Lindblom, and Konechny on that other power play. So it's like I'm like I don't even know.
You're lost for words.
I'm at a loss for words. Exactly. Because the offense is good in some games, and then in the next game there's no one that can score.
Yeah.
And the only one that's really been consistent so far is Lindblom.
Konechny and Lindblom have been our best players.
Yeah. I honestly think Lindblom should be player of the month.
For the Flyers or in the NHL?
No, for the Flyers.
I was going to say the NHL. No way.
No. Oh, no. I mean, Pasternak has like 24 points already. I don't think we should, put Lindblom up there. And the Bruins have like 20 points already. It's insane. They're like 9-1-2.
Yeah, it's the Flyers. I'm trying to find some light at the end of the tunnel right now, but it's like the one thing that I'm thinking about right now is that this is probably the best start that we have in the past couple of years, but it's still mediocre.
Exactly. It's probably the best start they've had in the last few years. Since when did they come out of October 500? When?
Never.
Exactly. I think the last time might have been 2012, 2014, along them lines. The year they made the playoffs. Well, years, but
it's
the most annoying thing with this team right now is the streaks that they're going on.
Yes,
that's what just annoys me the most, because
they win the first 2 games of the season,
right,
and then they go out to Western Canada, lose 3 straight, and then they lose another one for a 4-game losing streak at home, and then they go on the road, beat Chicago, then they come home, beat the Columbus for a 2-game win streak, and now they're on another 2-game losing streak, but losing to the Islanders and the Penguins.
Yeah, well, that was actually 3 because they beat Vegas at home as well.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about Vegas.
But even still, like what you said, they outscored opponents 17 goals in that 3-game win streak. Remember how I said remember the number 12?
Yeah.
They've given up 12 goals in 2 games. 12. To 2 teams in your division. To be honest, the Flyers' top 9 on paper is better than the Penguins' top 9. On paper.
On paper. Take that with a grain of salt.
And it's better than the Islanders' top 9 on paper.
Yeah.
And they lose both games.
I get the on paper that we're better than them, but the past 2 nights we didn't look better than any of the teams we faced. We didn't look better than them at all.
Right. That's proving my point that on paper they are a better team, but on the ice they don't show it. So that's why they lose all these games.
That is the definition of inconsistency and mediocrity.
Right.
And who is the blame? That is you can't blame coaching staff anymore because it's a brand new coaching staff. You can't blame the front office because they made changes this offseason. They brought in Kevin Hayes. They brought in 2 veteran defensemen. And now they're bringing up the young guys. They brought up Joel Farabee. Oh, Joel Farabee has 1 point in the games he has played. Look at that, Flyers fans. He wasn't the Connor McDavid that everyone expected him to be.
Right. No one's been
it's not a knockoff talent. It's not a knockoff Joel Farabee because I have liked the way that he has played, but he wasn't going to come in and score 20 points in his first 5 games.
Oh.
That is my one problem.
And McDavid didn't even do that. That's the thing. Like, oh my God.
It's like, I hate going back to the conversation of Flyers Twitter because I know we talk about it a lot, but just the Flyers fan base in general, there's a lot of people that are going out there after these 2 losses complaining about, call up Phil Myers, call up Morgan Frost. What are those 2 going to do?
Exactly. It's not like they're going to come in and, exactly like you said, score 20 points in 5 games or whatever. If they take out Stewart and if they take out Vorobiev or whatever the hell you want to do with it, it's not going to make them better. They're still going to play on the 4th line, so who cares? If they didn't even sign Stewart, and if they called up Farabee with the money that they had, or say they called up Morgan Frost as well, they would have played 4th line minutes. So why does it matter? Farabee's on the 3rd line right now. I'm not saying he's playing bad. Kevin Hayes is on the 3rd line. Yeah. if you like, if you're gonna get mad over a rookie playing on the third and fourth line, you honestly, like, honest to God, really know nothing about hockey. I'm serious, because if you expect Joel Farrer to be on the first line with Giroux and Couturier, whoever the hell you want to put on the first line, then you're nuts, because that's not going to happen. Like, the first and second line they've kept together for a majority of the year, especially the second line.
But honestly, after these two losses, I do expect maybe Alain Vigneault makes some line changes because he's definitely going to do that.
He
but
did that in the middle of the third or the second period.
Yeah,
he had Hayes with Konechny and Farabee,
and it's just still mind-boggling that, like, it's not. People are blaming the bot. I feel like people are blaming the bottom six way too much. My problem.
They are.
Yeah, my problem is our veterans aren't doing anything. Our veteran people that we have on the top unit, Claude Giroux, JVR, Jake Voracek, and even I'll put in there Sean Couturier. Those four have not done anything. Yeah, JVR had a nice stretch in 2 games where he scored 5 points. Yeah, Jake Voracek is starting to wake up a little bit. Claude Giroux, he's off and on to start the season.
Right.
That's my problem. Sean Couturier has been uncharacteristic. Yeah. I hate bringing out that he's a -5 because I hate that. I hate the plus-minus stat.
So do I. It really means nothing.
Sean Couturier is typically a plus player, so it's either he's just off to a very slow start to season, like plenty of the other vets that we have on this team. It's just that those 4 specifically, I'll throw in Gostisbehere there too. So those 5 have not played up to where they can play. And Claude Giroux was evident in that game last night. And yeah, I don't like using profanity when we're on the podcast, but Claude Giroux used profanity in his post-game press conference. He said the team played like shit. And they shouldn't come out like that at all.
No, they shouldn't. Games like Flyers Penguins games are supposed to hype everyone up.
Yeah.
Because it is arguably, I'm not saying it is, but it's arguably one of the best rivalries in the NHL. With many others, including original 6 teams.
Yeah, I know the rivalry. It's still a big rivalry. It's the Battle of Pennsylvania. That's definitely going to prove that it's a rivalry. But it's not going to be what it was in the 2012 playoffs. It's not going to be like between 2012 to 2014, 15, where the
even before that, like 2000, when the 5 overtime Primo goal.
Yeah,
I mean, it's never going to be like that again because
the league's different,
right? Like
there's not going to be line brawls every 5 minutes.
No, there's barely any fight. The average of fights in a game is maybe like under a half. Honestly, because there just isn't any anymore. They're steering away from that part of the of the game. And
rivalries don't mean that there's going to be a fight every 5 minutes.
No.
Rivalries just mean you don't like each other.
That there's going to be people in the seats that are going to watch it, and it's going to be an expensive ticket, and it's going to be a good game.
Yeah. But it wasn't yesterday.
It wasn't. For Penguins fans, they loved it, but for us, we're sitting here with, oh my God.
That's what I was thinking to myself yesterday. They're hyping this up so much. Oh, the Battle of Pennsylvania, it's going to be a great game. I was like, they're going to get blown out now. Right. Keep upping the game up. That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah. It's just like Eagles Cowboys.
Yeah,
they blow it up and the Eagles get killed.
Yeah, they blow it up to all the proportion, and it's not going to be a close game at all. One team is going to blow the other out. Right. That's what Flyers versus Penguins has been the past few seasons. One team blows the other out.
And the thing is like last year, as bad as they were, they honestly should have won all 4 games against Pittsburgh. They won 3 of them, and they played good enough in that one that they lost to lose. They had around 50 shots on goal. They lost 5-1, but Matt Murray was a brick wall. But the Stadium Series, that was honestly just ridiculous. And the 2 games in Pittsburgh that they won, 4-2 and 2-1 in overtime, they played good. They like going into last night's game, they were 14-3-3 in that building since it opened in 2010. That's really good. And honestly, there's a lot of buildings where teams don't win. TD Garden, Madison Square Garden, PPG Paints Arena, That's another one where not many teams win. It's some teams are very dominant at home, and Wells Fargo Center used to be like that. Flyers used to be great at home, and now I honestly think that the home games hurt them more because last year they couldn't win at home for anything, and they were better on the road. And now this year it's the complete opposite, where they have only won, I think maybe one
They've
or
won
two.
four. They've won 4 home games.
Yeah, and five. One has been on the road, and that was
Yep.
against Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And or if you want to call the Prague game a road game, but they were considered the home team. So it's like, I just think they're kind of going back to that. I don't know if you recall this, but in 2014, 2015, I remember this so it's very vivid in my mind because this is the year I had season tickets.
Mm-hmm.
They had 10 wins on the road, and they had 23 at home. And I don't remember the losses and the overtime losses, but you can kind of tell that they were very bad on the road. And majority of those games that they won on the road were by like 1 goal.
Yeah, that's been a common theme throughout the majority of the past few seasons. The Flyers have sucked on the road.
No, they
That's
just
evident.
always do. Right.
But I know last year they were better on the road, but my whole problem is just that you're playing Pittsburgh and you come out with that terrible performance. I just don't get it. I don't get how.
The thing is the game was actually in favor of the Flyers for the first few minutes, and then they scored 4 goals in a span of 3 minutes, and the game was over. All momentum just went down the toilet, and they were done.
Yeah. Brian Elliott made some big saves, and then you left him out to dry.
Right. I put a tweet up during the game. I said, "Great save by Elliott on Russ there." It was a little one-on-one chance in front. My dad responds about 10 minutes later, "What game are you watching?" I said, "I posted this tweet before it was 4-0."
Oh my god! It's this. If you can tell, like this week has just been, for all Flyers fans, this week has just been terrible to start off because I don't know how to judge this team still. I just don't, because they haven't given us.
It's a mix of last year and the year before.
Yeah, and this team, I still need to see it to believe it, because you keep telling me that, oh, we're a better team. Well, you're not showing it.
Exactly. You're still 500.
Yeah, and Alain Vigneault has said, "Oh, these guys are still adjusting. They're still adjusting." Why is it taking so long to adjust?
Well,
I don't get it.
I mean, I can see that. You have guys like, I mean, did we really expect Elliott to be getting as much minutes as he has?
No.
Did we expect Hart to be as bad as he is as of right now?
No. Actually,
do we expect? Are we expecting all of our top players to not show up right now?
Oh, they should be.
Are we expecting our defense to be this bad as it is right now?
No.
Did we really expect Kevin Hayes and Farabee and Braun and Niskanen to come in and be the saviors of the team? Hell no. They would help, most definitely, but I didn't expect them to be. I mean, I had high hopes for them, and I have high hopes for them every year. They get my hopes down every year. I'm used to it at this point.
Oh, that's a typical Flyers fan tradition.
Exactly. That's a Philly sports fan. But like, the thing that annoys me the most is I know the team is better, and I know the defense is better. So why can't they just show it on a consistent basis? Like, there are so many teams this year that are regularly or majority of the time they're bad. Buffalo and Arizona are the two that come to mind, and even Edmonton. And as of right now, I think all 3 of them lead their divisions, or they're in a playoff spot.
Edmonton leads their division. I don't think Buffalo's leading the division anymore. I think it's Boston, and Arizona's in a wild card spot.
Yeah, Buffalo's like neck and neck, and Arizona is like 7-3 and something. They're playing good hockey right now, and they just beat Buffalo.
2 points. Yeah, they're 2 points behind the division lead, I think. Arizona, right. And look how good Carolina has been.
Exactly, another team who missed the playoffs for about 10 years straight, and then made it last year, and now they're all good again.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we just do that? I don't get it. Is it bad luck? I don't get it anymore.
Is it the players? Because that's where my mind's going to. That's where my mind is going to. It's the players.
I mean, I don't blame everything on Giroux and Voracek.
I'm not blaming everything on Giroux. No, there are some players that are just. I don't want to go down that typical like angry Flyers fan path,
Right.
but
I
there's
don't either.
some players that just aren't cutting it at all.
I mean, if you look back at recent years with Giroux, he didn't
Hmm.
score his first goal, I think, in 2013-14 until like November 15th. And I was at that game. And they played the Oilers. And Devin Dubnyk was in net for Edmonton. That's how long ago it was. And I remember it so vividly because that was the first game I ever went to that they won. The first game I went to was in March of 2013. They didn't win until November of 14 when I went. It was like the fourth or fifth game I've been to, and they just lost. I was like, come on. And they finally won. And then Giroux actually had a pretty decent year after that. I think he had around 80 points. It may take some time, but it's just like, I'm not giving up because it's October.
I'm not giving up either, but
No.
this team needs to show me something because I'm tired of the mediocrity. I'm tired of the inconsistency. It's been the same crap since 2012.
I know.
Even this whole decade, it's been the same crap.
Mm-hmm. Even probably before that.
Yeah, I would say even before that. I would say since the lockout, the first lock in like 2004, 2005, it's been the same crap.
Mm-hmm. And that 04 season before the lockout, they went to the Eastern Conference Final and lost in Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just tired of everything.
There's always that lingering. I know it's like 20 minutes into this podcast already, and we haven't even analyzed the games. But it's like, what is there to analyze? Mainly, the Flyers looked bad in both games.
Right.
Like we can go over like
There's
who did what and did what.
Yeah.
There's like nothing to say, but the team looked terrible.
Right. I made a YouTube video yesterday. The game wasn't even over when I started the video. It was the start of the third period, and I got a tweet that Lindblom scored. Then I hit play, and it's like, I'm like, what's the point? And honestly, I wouldn't be mad right now if this was the first time, because there's many times where we've seen this, where they're just streaky, they're bad at defense. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just tired of it. I'm too much of a diehard fan to be sitting here literally, oh my God,
just complaining, constantly complaining.
Exactly.
And I have one friend that like me and him, one of my good buddies, like he has been a diehard like hockey fan since he grew up, but just the fact that the Flyers have been in this stretch of being being mediocre. The Flyers have he's lost the Flyers a little bit. He's been pushing more towards the Eagles, the Phillies, the Sixers. I don't blame him. Because
I don't either.
What has this team shown us?
Nothing. Like, well, they've raised ticket prices. We know that.
Yeah, they keep raising ticket prices, but
the team on the ice is doing nothing.
They keep saying, "Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do that." Like, when is it going to happen?
Exactly.
And there's always this lingering thought in my mind, going back to when Ron Hextall was first hired as the GM. I know he had this whole plan set out to build through the draft and to still remain competitive. There's always that lingering thought in my mind saying that, was Hextall's plan flawed? That's one of my thoughts, but I don't want to go. I don't want to go to that full extent saying it wasn't, because he has drafted a lot of good players. He has drafted a lot of decent talent.
A lot of our younger guys right now were drafted by Hextall.
Yes.
Sanheim, Morin, Hag, Farabee, Frost, Rubtsov, Ratcliffe, Patrick, Konechny, Provorov,
Hart,
especially Hart, Sandstrom, Ustimenko. I mean, the amount of guys he's drafted is insane from how good he is at drafting. But besides that, he was a bad GM. I mean, let's be honest. I'm going to be blunt with you here.
Yeah,
he was a bad GM.
Yes, because
the amount of trades that he made that were just trades and signings. Right, Hartnell to Columbus for Umberger.
When
Hartnell went into Columbus and scored around 30 goals that year. You sign Andrew McDonald to this long extension worth around $5 million.
No,
does nothing.
Actually, that was Holmgren that signed that contract before Hextall came in. So even though Hextall had a part in it, that was mainly Holmgren.
You're right. My bad. You're right.
But that still doesn't deny the fact that Hextall has made some pretty bad decisions, bringing in Dale
Coburn for
Weiss.
Gudis, Dale Weiss, that's another one. I mean, the only thing they got good out of that Braden Shen trade was
Morgan Frost and Joel
Morgan
Farabee.
Frost. But Yuri Laterra, oh my God.
But even though people still want to argue that that trade was heavily in favor of the St. Louis Blues, there's still, you can't judge the trade yet because Joel Farabee hasn't shown his full potential. Morgan Frost is not even in the NHL yet, and he's only 20. You can't. That trade's not going to answer itself probably for another few more years. Yeah, it's good to see Braden Shen winning a cup with the St. Louis Blues, and he's getting his payday with them. Yeah. But he wasn't doing anything with the Flyers. So I don't want to get into that whole argument.
Yeah,
because
I get you. It's just it's done and over with at this point, and there's really, as you said, you can't go into it right now because there's nothing to go into. Frost isn't in the NHL, and that's that.
Farabee's just starting.
Right.
And then I see many other teams that have sucked probably for, I would say, since the start of the decade. Teams like Carolina comes to mind. I know New Jersey they're still trying to pull it together, but they're not to the, I guess, where they want to be. But they have been, I would say, tanking, if you know what I mean.
The Kings have been bad for a few years.
Yeah, the Kings just recently started to be bad. And you also have teams like Edmonton, who has been a terrible team since the start of the decade. Probably even before
Arizona.
And Arizona. And Buffalo. But look at what, I guess you would say, what losing does in getting higher draft picks. Look, just Carolina is the one team that comes to mind because they're benefiting from all those losing seasons and getting those good draft picks.
Right.
Look at how stacked their AHL team is. Their AHL team is one of the dominant. The Charlotte Checkers, they're one of the dominant teams in the NHL.
They just won the Calder Cup.
Yes. And look at the team the past 2 seasons. No one expected them to be as good as they were last season and surprisingly make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And look how good they are to start the season.
Right. They started, 5-0 and 6-0 or something around there?
Yeah, they're one of the best teams in the Metro Division. I think they're like a point or two behind the Capitals.
Yeah, something along them lines.
Yeah, it's...
that's another team, honestly, the Capitals.
And it's like, I understand Hextall and we build for the draft, but we still want to remain competitive. Was the remaining competitive part flawed? Could the Flyers have used maybe a couple of losing seasons to get better draft picks? Because we have good talent, but it's not something that impacts the team instantly. That is the one problem. Could you have... Like, I know this is like a whole rant and like some people don't agree with this, but there's also some people that think that would agree with the Ron Hextall idea was very flawed because of the remaining competitive and also drafting.
I definitely agree. I
mean, the Flyers through that whole stretch of like making the playoffs, missing the playoffs, the years that they missed the playoffs, they were either like 10th to 15th, 14th overall picks. We got lucky that one year with Nolan Patrick in the second overall pick. But that was a very weak draft.
And they were projected to get the 13th pick in that draft. They moved up 11 spots.
Every year that we have missed the playoffs in this mediocrity stretch, we've been like 2 to 1 places out of the playoffs, maybe like 5 points out of it.
It's the games in the beginning of the season that hurt them. Every year they're a game or two or 3 points back or 4 points back. It's like, I mean, when the year they played the Capitals in the playoffs in 2016, they made the playoffs on the last game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because Pittsburgh arrested 2 of their best players in Crosby and Letang. Started a backup goalie. They were already clinched. So what was the point? They didn't want to risk injury. So it's like, and like, I definitely do agree with you with the fact that maybe Hextall's plan was a little flawed, but like, the thing that I don't understand is he kind of just kept the same few guys together and didn't do anything with them.
Mm-hmm. Look at all the years that have been wasted with Claude Giroux.
I know. And the people that blamed Giroux, he never had the line mates to do anything. He had maybe Jake Voracek, who was barely on his line. majority of Voracek and Drew's points in the last 2 years have come from the first unit power play, which has been one of the reasons why the Flyers have won so many games in the last few years, because they just had a good power play with Simmons and back when they had Kimo Timonen and then Gossespierre and Shen and Hartnell and Simmons and all the old players that they used to have on the power play really helped them. And he didn't he put everything on, he honestly put everything in like the way he wanted to build everything like around the draft. It hurt them because he did nothing for their goaltending. He wanted everything for the future. The reason the reason he got fired was because he didn't want to call up Carter Hart.
And honestly, no one expected Carter Hart to come up. We had to call up Carter Hart because the freaking goaltender injuries. That was evident, but right. But no one was going to expect Carter Hart to come up and did what he did last season. No one expected that.
I thought he'd be good. I didn't think he'd be that good.
Yeah. And I understand like some of the points with Hextall saying, oh, some guys need the goalies. Yes, some goaltenders need to develop longer than they should. And I honestly thought Carter Hart probably needed like at least a season down in the AHL before getting called up. But Chuck Fletcher was forced hand because he had no choice to call him up because of all the injuries.
Right. And plus the goaltending just, even if they were healthy, they just weren't good.
Yeah. Elliott was good when he was healthy, but the defense in front of
maybe I'm not saying, the year before.
Yeah, Elliott, I'm not saying Elliott is this fantastic goaltender, but when he is healthy and when he can be on his game, he has been good, and he has done that to start this season. He has been really good.
Right.
But
Elliott hasn't been the same goalie since he was in St. Louis.
Yes. And when he was an all-star in St. Louis.
Right. He was with Calgary. And at their time, their defense wasn't as good as it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, the thing is the Flyers, there are people that will ask me questions like, why did they take Provorov in that draft? Why didn't they take Rantanen or some of the other guys? I mean, honestly, if you look at their defense at the time, I might have said this before, I don't really recall. Their defense at the time was atrocious in that 15-16 season.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't Werenski, he went third, right?
Zach Werenski, he went to the Columbus Blue Jackets. He was the pick after Provorov.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
The players that were drafted before Ivan Provorov in that 2015 draft. Number 6 was the New Jersey Devils. They drafted Pavel Zacha. Number 5 was the Carolina Hurricanes. Number 5, they drafted Noah Hannafin. Mitch Marner went number 4. Dylan Strome went 3rd. Jack Eichel, then Connor McDavid. The players that were drafted after Ivan Provorov until the 10th round pick was number 8, Zach Werenski to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Number 9, Timo Meier to the San Jose. And then number 10, Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, that's a really good draft. And honestly, like, I could maybe see, like, I understand why they took Provorov. People will ask me, like, why didn't they take Rantanen? Because if you look at what Rantanen has done with the Avalanche last year and even the year before, and even the year before that, when they were really bad in 16-17, when they were, like, the worst team in the league and had, like, 40 points, he still had a pretty good year. And, like, I can definitely understand why they ask, they should have took Rantanen instead of Provorov. Well, their defense at the time was horrible.
I also hate the what ifs when it comes to the drafts. It's like
exactly. It's just like saying
at the time Provorov was the best player available, and Ron Hextall was prioritizing restacking the defensive core.
Plus, he wanted guys from the Brandon Wheat Kings.
Yes, and besides the Brandon Wheat Kings, but he was trying to build a defensive core like they did in Los Angeles. Because remember when LA won those cups, they were dominant on defense. Right. They were one of the best defensive teams when they won their cups.
Yeah, and they had the goalie as well, so it wasn't like the defense was saving it for them because the defense didn't have to do that much of a job because they knew the goalie was Jonathan Quick was insane. And
it's also the fact that you don't know what a player's going to turn into.
Exactly.
I hate when it's like saying Mikko Rantanen in the way he's been playing the past few seasons with the Colorado Avalanche. If the Flyers drafted him, what if he was a guy that was only like a 50 50-point per season player.
Majority of Rantanen's success has come from playing with Nathan McKinnon.
Yes, and Gabriel Landeskog.
Right. Who Rantanen and Landeskog are both injured right now. That's another thing. Rantanen's been injured for a decent amount of his career already, and he's only been in the league for about 4 years.
And I hate it's like the same thing going back to Nolan Patrick's draft. People are saying like, "Oh, why didn't we draft Elias Pettersson?" One, because Pettersson wasn't expected to go that high.
He was like 20 in the 20, right? Around there, like around the 20th.
He was expected to go between 15 and 30.
Yeah.
And yeah, Vancouver took a stretch with him. Nolan Patrick was since the start of that season, he was the number 1 overall pick going into that. Nico Hischier just stole it because Patrick was injured majority of the season.
And Hischier was, as I said this before, he's played on the first line with Hall, guys like Hall, Palmieri. Like he's gonna put up points if you're on the first line.
Yeah, it's not knocking these players saying that they're not good. They're good players. It's just you don't know what they're going to turn into when you draft them.
Right.
Yeah, and Provorov, honestly, he hasn't been that Norris Trophy capable defenseman yet, but like that we all like hyped him up to be. But he could still be that. He's still young enough to where he can still get better.
I remember when Provorov got drafted, they said that he was going to win the Norris in like 3 years.
Yeah.
I was like, and the same thing with around Patrick's draft, because they were saying Patrick was supposed to go number 1.
Yes,
Patrick. I remember watching it when they said the Devils had the first pick, and they went up and said Hischier, and me and my dad went nuts on the couch because we wanted Nolan Patrick. I personally thought Patrick was better. I was going to settle with Hischier at the time, and just, I mean, you cannot compare those picks.
You can't.
Like, you can't compare Eichel and McDavid either. That's just a complete mismatch.
They're 2 completely different players.
Right. On 2 completely different teams, and none of them have really had any success.
Yeah. One player doesn't change a team.
Exactly.
You look at McDavid and he made the playoffs 1 year. Even though, Edmonton's doing really good to start off the season, but McDavid hasn't made the playoffs 1 season since he's been drafted.
Same thing with Buffalo.
Buffalo hasn't made the playoffs at all. Since Eichel's been drafted.
Well, I meant that because how good they're playing, not because they made the playoffs, but you get the point. And even last year, they had that 10-game winning streak, and then they just fell flat, just like the Flyers did a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
This has been a very long rant. Jesus Christ. This has been a very long rant, if you listeners cannot tell. We're 38 minutes into this. I think we should take a break for a couple seconds so we can like cool off and maybe think a little optimistically going into the rest of the season. But it's hard to do that with this team. So let's pause for a little bit. Let's hear a word from our sponsor, and we'll come back and maybe lighten up the mood.
Hi, I'm Mark, and I'm one of the hosts of Massive Late Fee. Do you remember Blockbuster? Well, we do, and we racked up a lot of late fees there. That's why we're glad there's things like Netflix, Hulu, and Blockbuster has died, mostly because of us. We cover streaming shows and pretty much whatever we want. Join us every Thursday as we talk TV and movies on Massive Late Fee. You can find us at Massive Late Fee on Twitter, Massive Late Fee on Facebook. You can email the show at massivelatefee@gmail.com, and you can find us at MySpace, Massive Late Fee. Massive Late Fee, the best podcast we can think of.
And welcome back to the Fired Up Podcast. And as we calm down right now, because it's mixed with a little overreaction and just like getting frustration now, because yes, the team that so many seasons in a row have been so mediocre. I mean, we thought this was going to be the year they were finally going to break out of that. And with the new coaching staff, Alain Vigneault, he was going to whip them into shape, but it hasn't happened yet. And yeah, you can make an argument that a team maybe needs a little adjustment period to get intact to the new coach's system, because we have 3 new coaches, right? That could be a hard system. Well, not a hard system. It could be like a difficult process to get the system down. We show some spurts that we could be really good, but then it's the games where we lose, we don't look good at all. That has been the problem.
In the games they've lost, they show no fight whatsoever.
Yes. Every single game we have lost, we have looked terrible. And every single game we have won, we have looked really good. So it's like it's still hard for me to judge this team because they haven't shown me like something that's similar, something that's the same. And And the one conclusion that me and Chris can come to is that it's only October. It's only
Everything that we
October.
just talked about for the last 40 minutes literally answers. It's only October. The offense
Yeah.
being so bad, the defense struggling, Carter Hart being really bad. It's October. It may take some time. We're gonna have to work through it. We always do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Hopefully something can change.
it's either going to end in terrible misery, or it's either going to end in excitement. We don't know what this Flyers team is right now.
Majority of the time, it's terrible misery.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's the life of a Flyers fan. You're so optimistic going into the season because they tell you so many good things. Oh, this and this and this and that. Oh, we're gonna be a way better team than we were last year, and then you go out and you're the same exact team.
we're gonna make the playoffs. We're gonna make it past the first round. We might go
Yes,
to the Cup final,
you
and
did.
we're 500 in October. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's the Flyers fan response has just been, it's like after one game it's like, oh my God, we are the best team in the world. We're going to the Cup final, we're winning the cup, and then after a loss, it's like, oh, okay, we suck again. We're the same exact team from last
Every
season.
Instagram comment has been typical Flyers, typical Flyers. I'm like, yeah, say that to the like the Phillies haven't made the playoffs since 2011, and the people make it like it's just the Flyers that are just bad. I'm like, before the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they relatively didn't do anything, and the Sixers have trusted that process since about 2012.
Well, I would say the Sixers right now are the only good team in Philadelphia.
Yeah, exactly, and I 100% agree with you.
At least the Sixers show us signs of hope, but like can the
Clap your
Flyers?
hands, everybody.
No.
Philadelphia 76ers.
Oh God. Uh, don't play that song in front of one of my friends. They will dance to that song.
That song brightens my day.
Yeah, it does because it shows it's the sign of happiness.
Right.
And
It's not like, the orange and the black that they play at every game. It's rare when you hear that.
oh my God, it's just hard. I think everyone can agree with this. It's just difficult being a Flyers fan. I know it's like it's probably it's
At this point, it's just like we're all coming to an agreement that it's difficult being a Flyers fan.
I'm sure a lot of other fan bases around the around the league are saying the same thing about their own teams. But yeah, Ottawa, I feel bad for your Ottawa fans. I feel terrible for you what your team has been going through. But
They actually have a pretty decent fan base too.
yeah, they do have a good fan base. It's just their front office and their management has been terrible to the team and the fans.
Right.
And Buffalo fans, I've felt terrible for you for a while. You guys have deserved so much, and your team just hasn't shown it. So,
Vancouver as well.
Vancouver as well. But some of those teams are showing their fan bases signs of hope, and the Flyers have not done that yet for this fan base. And are they ever going to show that hope? Who knows? They just need to they need to win they need to make the playoffs first. That's one thing. Even though
They have to.
Yeah, go ahead.
They have to win some games first before I don't even want to think about the playoffs. Just I don't even want to think about the offseason.
Mhm.
That whole offseason was so stressful with everything, with when's Provorov going to sign and when's Konechny going to sign, and oh, they got new coaching staff. What are they going to do? It started in June. I'm like, oh my God. And by the end of it, I was hitting myself in the head, come on. And now I just have to think, well, okay, let's try to win some games. And then they lose. I get disappointed like usual. And then it's just all right, well, today's a new day. Hopefully they can win, and then they'll lose again. And then I'll get my hopes up again for the next game, and then they'll lose again. And somewhere along the lines, they'll hopefully win a few games, and maybe they'll be in the playoffs this year.
Maybe. Just flat out maybe. We don't know. It's just sometimes I forget what good hockey is. Because going into every game, you don't know what to expect with this team, and I don't like that.
And sometimes I forget that it's not the end of the world if they lose. I think I forget that sometimes. But then again, I'm just I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
And
I want a good team on the ice.
Exactly. I want my favorite team, the Philadelphia Flyers. In the history of all sports, I've never liked a team as much as I do the Flyers. And I would do anything for them to have a good season. Honestly, that's literally That's literally how I am right now. I would literally do anything.
Yeah. And to wrap up this month of October, the Flyers are at a record of 5-5-1, the definition of mediocre. Exactly 500, basically. And it's there were some good hopes. There were some good signs in October. We had some convincing wins, but then there were some losses that were just flat out terrible.
Yeah.
And main losses coming these past 2 nights against the Islanders and the Penguins, and their loss against Edmonton, against Calgary. Those games didn't look very good, especially a game at home against Dallas. But there were games where we convincingly won and looked really good. A game at home against New Jersey Devils, against the Vegas Golden Knights, that comeback win against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then I would even say the home opener against the Chicago Blackhawks, we look good.
Right.
But there hasn't been a consistent stretch of the same hockey. It's been 2-game winning streak. We looked really good. Oh, we're on a stretch of losing. This team looks completely flat and different. Oh, we won again. This team looks good. And then lose. This team looks terrible. I would take a loss if they still looked good losing the game.
Exactly.
Yeah,
what annoys me the most,
they haven't looked good.
The thing that annoys me the most is they have no heart anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't. And I know some people are gonna laugh. Oh, it's Carter Hart's last name, but like, they just don't show any sign of, we're gonna come back and win this game. They did it once, and it was versus Columbus, and they were honestly lucky to win that game. There's no heart anymore. No one has that fierce competitiveness when they go into every game that they're gonna, lay someone out and then score. It's like no one does that anymore. Like, I honestly don't even get that excited over Flyers Penguins games anymore because I just know what the outcome is.
One team's gonna blow the other out.
Right, and we're just gonna get annoyed when Crosby scores some weird goal from the friggin' behind the goal line.
Yeah, but that was a nice goal. You got to give it that.
No, not even last night. I mean, from years past. Like, like literally when they would be winning like 2-1 or 1-0 or have a pretty decent lead and play different, and then he just does that. I'm like,
I know they're Flyers fans that'll hate me for saying this, but just as a fan of hockey in general, I love watching Sidney Crosby. It's a fun pastime to watch. Sadly,
the only time I hate Crosby
is when he plays
the Flyers.
Yes,
there's no player I have more respect for.
Yeah.
And he is the greatest player in the league right now. And if I will literally argue that with anyone, because McDavid is not the best player in the league. Ovechkin is not the best player in the league. I can see why you think that. Years ago, people said it was Stamkos, and I don't agree with that at all. Hasn't really done much he's done a lot, but he hasn't. You get the point. He hasn't done much to be up that high of a name. But Crosby's honestly done everything. I mean,
it's funny. The one team that he has more success than the Flyers is the New York Islanders. I think he has like 111 points against the Islanders, and Crosby just broke 100 points against the Flyers last night's game.
101. He had a goal and an assist last night.
Yeah. So yeah, you know Sidney Crosby's going to give it his all when he's playing the Flyers. I know there was that one season where in the playoffs it was basically saying Claude Giroux was better than Sidney Crosby. I love Claude Giroux to death. He's not better than Sidney Crosby.
Oh.
No way in hell.
No, I don't think anyone is. No one is.
No one is. No.
No one is.
You can argue you can honor Connor McDavid, but he's not the best yet.
No. Maybe when Crosby retires and McDavid's a little older, maybe hits his prime more.
Yeah. I wonder what a Connor McDavid prime is, even though he's like already in the 100-point range. What the hell is a Connor McDavid prime?
300 points in a season? What the hell?
No, that's never going to happen.
That's breaking Gretzky's record.
Oh, God.
It's like 215, isn't it?
I think so. Like that. Yeah, that NHL's never going to go back to that at all, ever.
Gretzky got all them points. He couldn't literally, he could barely lift the puck off the ice.
Oh, God. But it's just, it's fun watching Sidney Crosby, but it'd be fun to watch the Flyers play a game. It'd be fun to watch the Flyers be good. But
we see it, but we see small little stints of it every year, and it's just like, can you be consistent for 1 year?
there just hasn't been that consistent stretch of being good, and it's hard just going out there and like not expecting what your team's going to be putting out there every single night. It's hard to do. It's hard to judge because I've literally been through every game, sitting there before it. I have no idea what the team's going to put on the ice because it's literally a different one every time, every game. It's literally different, and I just like I said, it's hard to judge. I know it's only been 1 month. It's only been October, and we're starting a brand new month. A brand new month can turn many things around. This team can become one of the best in the NHL. This team could turn into one of the worst teams in the NHL, or they can still remain mediocre. Hockey is unpredictable like that, but hopefully the Flyers can turn this thing around because they desperately need to for the sake of the fan base. They desperately need to,
and not even like for themselves, even too.
Yeah, for themselves, but also for the fan base because
right.
The fan base right now is in turmoil.
I mean, I will still watch every game. Doesn't mean I'll be pleased with it, but I will watch every game.
It doesn't say that for the non-sold out seats in the Wells Fargo Center. Every game I've been going to, there's been so many patches in the seats.
I mean, that's every arena, though.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Well,
there haven't been as many patches in past seasons that I can remember. There haven't been as many patches.
I get you. I definitely agree, but it's like not every place is going to sell out every night.
When you're a good team, you're going to sell out every game.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's different. It's different with football and baseball because there's only 8 football games. It's obviously sell out, and the tickets are outrageously priced. And baseball, there's 81 games at home, so there's no way that everyone's going to sell out because there's about 40,000 seats in like every stadium. So that's just ridiculous.
But it proves when your product is good, you're going to sell out. Remember
Exactly.
the Phillies' consecutive sell-out streak when they were a good team?
Right.
From like 2009 to 2012, 2013. Yeah. Every game was sold out. When the Flyers were, I would say, in the beginning of this decade, to even before this decade started, they were consistently selling out games. But as the years just constantly progressed and the team just continued to be mediocre, less and less fans started to come to games.
Yeah.
You need a good product on the ice for your fans to come to the game.
Look at the Sixers. Sixers tickets used to be like, I literally bought a Sixers ticket in like 2015 for like $3.
Yeah.
and now their tickets are like $85 plus.
Yeah, because they're good.
Exactly.
That's what happens when you have a good team.
Right.
You can charge that much for a ticket, and fans will still come to the games because they expect this team to be good, and the Sixers are the best team in Philadelphia right now. That's just a fact.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, and I agree, but then again, I'm like, okay, yeah, I agree. I don't even know why I'm trying to argue.
Because there's no argument. Because the Sixers.
There's no argument. Exactly. I'm trying to make an argument that I've made for years, which honestly I don't even know why I even do it.
Yeah, because the Sixers are the best team in Philadelphia. That's a fact, and I would say every other Philadelphia team, I guess, besides the Eagles, since they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, but they haven't been, I would say, up to par since. But the Phillies, they haven't done anything. The Flyers haven't shown they could be a good team yet. Even though they're trying to make the changes, they still haven't proved it yet in this first month. Even though there's still a whole season left for them to prove something, but they need to do it quick.
And like to go back to the point of you saying, like the seats and everything, it used to be impossible to go to a Flyers game.
Yes, it used to be very impossible.
It literally, and I'm not exaggerating, like it literally impossible. Like when they did, like back in like the late 90s with Lindros and Leclerc, when they went to the Cup final in '97, it was literally impossible to go to a Flyers game.
Mm-hmm.
And even in recent years, honestly, like that Cup final run in 2010, you probably know from experience that it was packed every game, even though they weren't even that good of a team that year. In the regular season, they made the playoffs in the last game of the year.
Yeah, but the team, it's just that it's been so more evident that this team hasn't been dominant. Oh, I don't want to say dominant. They haven't been good. Yeah. They haven't been. I would say good is a start. Mm-hmm. They haven't been a good team to bring the fan base to every single game. Bring them back to saying, "Oh, we love this team. We expect." Oh, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it's just that the team hasn't proven themselves to the fan base that they're a good team. They just haven't. They're proving that they're the same old team from last season, and people are buying into that right now. And I'm slowly starting to creep in that this team hasn't proved to me anything, and I still believe that they're the same team from last season because they start off mediocre, and the team last season was mediocre. So they still have to prove stuff, and hopefully in the start of this month, it's a brand new month. Like I said, a month can go many ways. And there's a lot of interesting matchups this month for the Philadelphia Flyers. To start off Friday, a team that's probably worse than them, the New Jersey Devils. Hopefully that's a team you can go in there and just beat down.
Yeah,
but
hopefully is the key word there.
Yeah, hopefully is the key word. You got Toronto this weekend on Saturday. They've been a team that hasn't dominated coming out of the stretch. There's like some Toronto fans that have been talking about maybe like they should fire Babcock, and because the team hasn't played up to their expectations yet.
You think there's any reason that is because Dave Haxtell is their assistant coach?
That would be like the day if Toronto actually fired Babcock and hired Haxtell.
Could you imagine if Babcock got fired before Dave Haxtell? Just imagine that. Honestly,
that actually sounds like a nightmare.
That goes back to when like the Leafs had Carlisle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's shit. Oh my god, I don't want to imagine that because thank God Dave Haxtell is not on this team. Just thank God. Because if Dave Haxtell was on this team, this would be the exact same team from last year. That's a fact.
And even if it was Scott Gordon, it would have been the exact same team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's nothing against Scott Gordon. He was a pretty decent coach when he was up here. The team just wasn't good when he was coaching.
Yeah. I know there's also this like other statistic with Elaine Vigneault saying that when he first starts out with teams, they don't get off to the very hot start, but then they finish off insanely strong. That with Vancouver when he started with the Rangers when they went to the Cup final that year. I was like, I don't want to live and die by that. It's exactly. Like I want the team to.
It's the same thing with Carter Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Last year he started with Lehigh Valley. He didn't even have that good of a year, and then picked it up later. Ended up getting the call up, and now he's on the Flyers.
Mm-hmm. Who knows? Maybe Carter Hart's just a bad October goaltender. I don't know. I don't want to live and die by that statistic.
I don't even want to think about that because that's not good. Because what does that mean? We're going to continue to overplay Elliott or someone else if they get rid of Elliott in the next few years, and then we're just not going to have a good goaltender, a good backup goalie?
Yeah, that's what
I don't want to ride Hart out of the stretch because it's like if they do, we're going to need Hart by playoffs. He's going to be starting just about every game unless injury or something else prevents that. But I mean,
it's the one thing I'm afraid of right now. I know Elliott's been playing really good. I get it. I don't want to overuse him because I'm afraid he's going to get injured.
Right. We all know what's going to happen with Elliott. It's either he's going to do something, he's going to try to make a real nice save or something. He's going to pull something in his leg, and he's going to be out for a while. Yeah. It just happens. He's an older goalie.
Yeah, and I know he said he's felt like the best that he has in years. So like maybe that's a sign for something. But like I still don't trust it because he's had at least one injury ever since he's been with the Flyers.
Right.
That's just not. It's like. You can't say, you can't believe his word because you don't trust it.
He's playing with a lot of confidence right now, and I don't blame him because he's playing very well. But it's just like
I'm sure he's pissed at the team in front of him and is letting him out there to dry.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I think there was a
he was
moment
on St. Louis and he was very good. St. Louis was honestly they choked a lot when he was with St. Louis.
Yeah,
I mean, like that was back when they still had Shattenkirk and.
Mm-hmm.
Jackman on defense, and
they had who was their captain during that time too?
Petrangelo.
Who is on Boston right now? David Backes. David Backes. That's his name.
Yep, Backes. He was their captain, and they still had Steen and Troy Brower, all guys like that, and they played. And Chicago would always roll through the same teams in the playoffs. First round, it was Minnesota. Then they would play St. Louis, and then they would play either L.A. or some other team, or maybe Anaheim. And then they would go on, and they would be in the Cup final.
Yep.
And like
so, continue. You can continue on that.
It's fine. I'm just gonna end it. I don't even
And,
want to do it anymore.
before we wrap up this podcast, because we're getting towards the hour point, and we honestly feel bad for making you guys listen to us rant for basically an hour, but that's what happens when the Flyers suck. So, to go over the rest of this month, like I said, there's a lot of interesting matchups, like the Devils and the Maple Leafs the first 2 days of the season, and then you get one of the best teams in the Metro coming up on November 5th in the Carolina Hurricanes, and then on November 7th the Flyers take on the Montreal Canadiens, and then on Saturday, November 9th, the Flyers will go to Toronto to face the Maple Leafs, and this is a back-to-back situation. Since on that Saturday the 9th they go to Toronto, then on that Sunday they go to Boston and play the Bruins. And the Bruins, they look scary. Pasternak and Tuukka Rask, they've been one of the best players in the league so far.
Yeah.
And then
they have Washington that month.
Yep. That following Wednesday, that's a Wednesday night rivalry game or Wednesday night hockey game, according to NBC Sports. That'll be against the Washington Capitals on the 13th. And then that following Friday, the 15th, they go to Ottawa to face the Senators. And then they're back home the next night on Saturday, the 16th, against the New York Islanders. And then they're off for 2 more days. Then they go to Florida to face the Panthers on the 19th. On the 21st, they go to Carolina to face the Hurricanes. On the 23rd of November, they're back home to face the Calgary Flames. And then two nights later at home on the 25th, they are home against the Vancouver Canucks. And then the day before Thanksgiving, they are off to Columbus to face the Blue Jackets. And then on Black Friday, they are home at 4 p.m. against the Detroit Red Wings. And then to finish off the month of November, they are on the road on Saturday the 30th at Montreal. So there's a lot of stretches of back-to-backs this month.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
And the Flyers, yes, they do play a lot more home games than they did in the month of October. I would say it's an even split between the road and home so far. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's a little better for them to get into a groove, hopefully. Hopefully that is a better chance for them to get in the groove.
If that continues where they play good at home, then that might help them this month, because if they can get maybe a few away games, maybe a few away game wins, maybe 4 or 5, then I think they should be just fine. I mean, really, they just need to step it up on defense, man. That's the thing.
Yeah, the defense needs to wake up.
Right. And that's the main problem. It's the defense. There's really nothing else to put it.
Yeah, you could say that's been one of the main problems the past few seasons.
Yeah, exactly. It's been the defense, and it's been the lack of scoring early, and somewhat of goaltending.
Yes.
So, half of the goaltending.
Yep. So to finally wrap up this podcast, hopefully the Flyers, it's been a really frustrating week with this team. Those 2 terrible losses to the New York Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins basically made me and Chris rant the entire time. It's like you can analyze the games, but like the main point you could take out of both of them is just the Flyers just sucked. That's the main takeaway. The team just sucked.
The other main takeaway is the other team scored more goals than the Flyers. That's the other main takeaway.
Yeah. Scoring 12 goals in 2 games.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember, number 12.
Allowing 12 goals. Oh, God. That's just... this team does need to wake up. And hopefully Friday against the New Jersey Devils, that's a game where you can go in against a bad team, even though the Devils have won a couple games their past few times, and Jack Hughes is finally starting to wake up. Hopefully that doesn't mean anything for the Flyers. Hopefully they can go in, face a struggling team and just beat them down. And the same thing at home against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Even though Toronto's a really good team, they have been an off and on start. So hopefully they can get off to this month with a good start, because I'm honestly afraid to face teams like the Carolina Hurricanes, the Boston Bruins, the Washington Capitals, those type of teams, because those are going to be really tough matchups, because they're 10 times better than the Flyers right now. And they need to be prepared for this month coming up. They need to prove us something, that they can be a good team and could be a dominant team in this division. They need to show us what they have told us since the offseason, that they're going to be a better team. They just need to show us that. They just have to. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on wrapping up this podcast so far? What do you think about the Flyers going to this month in November? Is it just wiping the slate clean?
Yeah, it's a new month. You got a game Friday, you got a game Saturday. You go to work, you win both games, you come out of it and continue it. That's all they got to do. Just win games at this point. I don't even want to give a deep analysis, because it's just like they just need to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
They need to stop with the streaks. They need to get the goaltending, and they need the offense to pick up, and the defense just needs to be overall be better.
Yes. That I 100% agree with you. And honestly, I feel like we jinxed the Flyers a little bit too because we did say they were going to win both games against the Islanders and the Penguins. So I guess that's kind of our fault for predicting they would win. But so let's just wipe the slate clean. Okay? So everyone erase your minds about that month of October. This is the actual start of the season. So be prepared for the first game of the season. Nah, just be prepared for Friday against New Jersey Devils at 7:00. Hopefully the Flyers will be prepared for that. Hopefully they'll go into the Prudential Center and get a win. So hopefully this is an exciting month of hockey coming up in the month of November. Hopefully the Flyers can just turn the corner and become the team that we all hopefully know that they can be, because we all know this team is better than what they have been showing us. So without further ado, the Flyers play the Devils on Friday. Hopefully they can do something good. And to wrap up this podcast, I'm Amadeo Gracia. He is Chris Mayer. And after the Flyers play these games against the Devils and the Toronto Maple Leafs, we will have more coverage for you on the Flyer Up podcast. So see you guys in the next one.